Hey guys, Mrs. Garth here to teach you some Algebra 1. We are going to stay with factoring. This time we are going to look for common factors. Here's the thing, is we could factor this. It's not that we can't. Hera is making all sorts of noises because she misses me and loves me. So, it's not that we can't factor this. It's that it would be easier if the numbers were smaller. So, we are first going to look and see a number that we can pull out. Now, 8, the multiples of 8 are 2 and 4 and 8. So I know if I were to look at my factor sheet that 4 also goes into 76, but it doesn't go in, but 8 doesn't go into 76. So we're going to take a 4 out of each one of those numbers. We know this by looking at our factor sheet. So I have 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2x squared minus 76 divided by 4 is 19x and 140 divided by 4 is 35. So all we've done is we've pulled this 4 out and we've divided the rest of the terms by 4. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our arrow. It's going to go down to the bottom and we're going to put a 4 there because that's what we took out. Now, this 2x squared minus 19x plus 35 looks like something we know how to factor. Does it have 4 terms? No, it only has 3 terms. We can't pull any other common numbers out because 19 is a prime number. So we're going to build our house. So I already used glue. We're going to build our house. 2 times 35 is 70. So we're going to find the numbers that multiply to 70 and add to a negative 19. Now, we have this negative sign. We did this last week, where when we see a negative, this is a positive, that means it has to be 2 negatives. 2 negatives multiply to each other, make a positive number. So I have the positive 70, and my factors of positive 70 are negative 1 and negative 70, negative 2 and negative 35, negative 5 and negative 14. So we are looking for the numbers that multiply to 70 because we built our house and add to a negative 19. So we're going to add these together. Negative 1 plus negative 70 is a negative 71. Negative 2 plus a negative 35 is a negative 37. And a negative 5 plus a negative 14 is a negative 19. And we're looking for a negative 19. So we're going to take this negative 5 and this negative 14 and we're going to replace the negative 19. We're not changing this. We're just making it something we can work with. So we keep our 2x squared minus 5x minus 14x plus 35. How about you have the eraser? Oh. So once I've rewritten it with 4 terms, now we can factor by grouping. That means we're going to put parentheses around our first 2 terms and around our second 2 terms. So what number can go into 2 and 5? If I looked at my factor sheet, I'd see that 2 and 5 are both prime numbers. So I can only pull a 1 out. I have 2 x's here and 1 x here. So that means that I have 1 x that can come out of both terms. So I write that here, and then I can start my parentheses. 2 divided by 1 is 2. I had 2 x's. I took 1 out. I circled that. So I only have 1 left. Minus 5 divided by 1 is 5. I had 1 x and I took that out. I end my parentheses. There are 2 terms inside the parentheses. There are 2 terms outside inside that parentheses. Because of this minus, I subtract. What number can go into 14 and 35? If we looked at our factor sheet, we'd see that's a 7. I do not have an x in both terms, so I can't take that x out. So I have a negative 14 divided by a negative 7. Remember, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So it's a positive 2x because I still have that x. Positive 35 divided by a negative 7. A positive divided by a negative is going to be a negative. So minus 5. That's not an x. Now, do my parentheses look the same? They sure do. I have 2x minus 5 and 2x minus 5. So we're going to go all the way down to where we wrote our 4 to finish off. I'm going to write my 2x minus 5. 2x minus 5 is being multiplied by 1x there. And a minus 7 here. And that's the end. So the only thing that we've changed, the only thing that's different than what we've been doing, is we had to pull this 4 out. And we drew an arrow down to where we would write our final answer so that we don't forget that we pulled that 4 out. Okay, so let's look at number 2. I've written it down for us. Now, we have to look and see, is there a common number that I can pull out or divide each one of these terms by? So 4, let's start with our smallest number because that has the fewest number of factors. 4, if I look at 4, my only multiples are 2 or 4. So can I pull a 2 out of each one of these? 18 divided by 2 would be 19. 19 is a prime number, so I know that I can't divide all of them by 4, but I can divide them by 2. So I'm going to pull that 2 out, and then I'm just going to rewrite this trinomial where it's been divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, plus 38 divided by 2 is 19, and 70 divided by 2 is 35. So all we've done is we've pulled this 2 out. If I multiply this 2 back in, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 19 is 38, and 2 times 35 is 70. So it will give us the same answer. We're going to draw our arrow down to the bottom so that we don't forget to put that in our final answer. Now, do I have 4 terms? No, I have 1, 2, 3 terms. It's a trinomial. So we're going to build a house. That means that it's going to be 2 times 35 is 70. We did this on the last one, which is why I don't want you to do the x's. On the last one, we saw what all of our factors were and what they added to, but we'll redo it. If you just go to the first problem, you'll be able to see which one we want to use. So my factors of 70 are 1 and 70, 2 and 35, and 5 and 14. And I have to see what they add up to. Because remember, we're looking for the numbers that multiply to 70 and add to our middle term, 19. So 1 plus 70 is 71. 2 plus 35 is 37. And 5 plus 14 is 19. So we're looking for the numbers that add to 19, which is right there, 5 plus 14. So we're going to substitute 5 and 14 into our equation instead of the 19x. So I have 2x squared plus 5x plus 19x plus 35. I'm sorry, 14x. Now, we're going to put parentheses around our first 2 terms and our second 2 terms so that we can factor by grouping. So, what number can go into 2 and 5? They're both prime numbers, which means it's just a 1. I have 2 x's. So, I have an x, 1x that can come out of both terms. So I pull that out. And now I can start my parentheses. 2 divided by 1 is 2. I had 2 x's, I took 1 out, so it's an x. Plus 5 divided by 1 is 5. And I had 1 x and I took it out, so that's the end. Plus, because of this plus, the highest number that can go into both 14 and 35 is 7. I don't have an x in both terms, so I can't take 1 out, so I can start my parentheses. 14 divided by 7 is a 2, and I still have that x there. 35 divided by 7 is 5. So, do my parentheses look the same? They sure do. They're the exact same thing, which means that I can rewrite, or I can finish my factoring. I'm going to come down to where I put my 2. This little arrow helps me remember that that's where I'm going to end. So I will have 2x plus 5, because that's what's in my parentheses. This parenthesis is being multiplied by 1x. And this parenthesis is being multiplied by 7. And that's our final answer. Now, at this point, I would like you to work on 3 and 4 on your own. If you don't understand what you're doing, then I'm going to finish 3 and 4 for you. But at this point, you need to stop this and try 3 and 4. That way you can see what you might have done wrong, and then you can come back to the video and fix anything that you might have done wrong. Okay, number 3. We have 4x squared plus 26x minus 90. So we have to look and see, is there a common number that we can take out? 4, 26, and 90 are all even numbers, which means that we can at least take out a 2. 26, if we divide by 2, is 13, which is a prime number, which means I know that I can't divide by anything greater than 2. So I'm going to take a 2 out, and then everything is going to be divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. I keep my x squared, plus 26 divided by 2 is 13. And 90 divided by 2 is 45. I'm going to draw my line down so that I don't forget to include that 2 in my final answer. Otherwise, it would be wrong. Now, I have 3 terms, not 4, which means that I need to build a house so that I can factor by grouping. So, 2 times negative 45 is going to be a negative 90. Now, remember that when we have a negative 90, one of our numbers is going to be positive and one of them is going to be negative, but we don't know which one. So we're going to write both sets, a negative 1 and a positive 90, and a 1 and a negative 90. We know only one of them is negative because this is a negative sign. If both of them were negative, this would have to be positive. I also have negative 2 and 45, 2 and negative 45, and I have negative 3 and 30, 3 and negative 30, and negative 5 and 18, and 5 and a negative 18. So now we need to add these together. We're looking for the numbers that multiply to a negative 90, but add to a positive 13. So I'm going to add these together. Negative 1 plus 90 is a positive 89. 1 minus 90 is a negative 89. Negative 2 plus 45 is 43. 2 minus 45 is a negative 43. Negative 3 plus 30 is 27. 3 minus 30 is a negative 27. Negative 5 plus 18 is 13, and 5 minus 18 is a negative 13. So I'm looking for the numbers that add to a positive 13, which means that I'm looking for negative 5 and 18. So I'm going to substitute negative 5 and 18 in instead of this 13x. So I will have 2x squared minus 5x plus 18x minus 45. So what number can I pull out of 2 and 5? They're both prime numbers, which means I can only pull a 1 out. I have 2 x's here and 1 x here. Oh, I forgot to put my parentheses. I'm so sorry. So I have 1x that I can take out of both. I dealt with my number and my variable, so I can start my parentheses. 2 divided by 1 is a 2. I had 2 x's, I took 1 x out. Minus 5 divided by 1 is 5. Plus, because of this plus sign, what number can go into both 18 and 45? If we looked on a factor sheet, we'd see that's a 9. 18 divided by 9 is a 2. And I didn't take this x out because I didn't have an x in both terms. Negative 45 divided by a positive 9 is a negative 5. Remember, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So, do my parentheses look the same? They do. They're both 2x minus 5, which means that we did it correctly. So we're going to go down here to my 2, put my parentheses, 2x minus 5. And then this 2x minus 5 is being multiplied by that 1x. And this 2x minus 5 is being multiplied by this plus 9. And then we're done. That's all we had to do. Okay, let's look at number 4. We have to look and see, can we factor a number out? So I have 3, 11, and 8. 3 and 11 are both prime numbers, which immediately tells me that there's no way that I can factor a number out because the only number that they have in common would be 1. So that means that we are just going to start this by building a house. It's 3 terms. We need to make it to 4 terms so that we can make it work. 3 times 8 is 24. So we're looking for the numbers that multiply to 24 and add to 11. I have 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Those are my factors of 24. You can look at your factor sheet if you would like and not have to write all of these down. And then we have to look and see what they add to. This is what they multiply to. They multiply to 24. We first have to find out what they add to. 1 plus 24 is 25. 2 plus 12 is 14. 3 plus 8 is 11. And 4 plus 6 is 10. Now, I'm looking for the numbers that add to 11, which is 3 plus 8. So I'm going to substitute in this 3 and the 8 instead of the 11. We keep our 3x squared plus my 3x plus 8x plus 8. So I've kept my 3x squared and my 8. I've just substituted the 3x plus the 8x. Now it is factor by grouping. We know how to factor by grouping. We're going to put parentheses around my first 2 terms and around my second 2 terms. I'm also going to put my variable up above so that I can see what I can take out. What number can go into both 3 and 3? Ideally, you'd recognize that that's the number 3. I have one x in common in both of them, so I pull out that x. I've dealt with the number and the variable, which then means that I can start to work on the inside of my parentheses. 3 divided by 3 is 1. I had 2 x's. I took 1 out, which means I only have 1 left. Plus 3 divided by 3 is also 1. I had 1 x and I took that out. So that's the end of our parentheses. On to the next group. We have 8 and 8. So what number can go into both of those? You should recognize that's an 8. I have 1 x here, but I don't have another one. So I cannot take that x out. So I'm going to start my parentheses. 8 divided by 8 is a 1. I had 1 x and I still do. Plus 8 divided by 8 is 1. Now, do my parentheses look the same? They sure do. They are 1x plus 1. So that means we did it correctly. So I will have 1x plus 1. Remember, if you choose to not write this one, that's okay. If it's just x plus 1, that's the same thing. This one, x plus 1, is being multiplied by 3x. And this one, x plus 1, is being multiplied by 8. And then we're done. You have homework to do, to work on. Please work on your homework today or tomorrow, and then there's another video for the rest of the week.